Finally, I mustered up the will to share this experience with you all. I'd posted about it the day it happened on a travel sub, hoping for a bit of consolation from internet strangers, and was met with rather callous individuals, which made the incident harder to overcome. But now I finally feel ready. Perhaps some of you will have insight, because I'm still flabbergasted by what happened. Anyway, here goes. So about a year ago, I decided to make an impromptu journey to Poland in search of relatives I'd never met but had only heard of via my ancestry research, and an American cousin who reached out to me. As a lover of travel and languages, I was eager to go alone and see how I'd do. I learned some Polish in college and had been traveling worldwide since I was 21. Before going to the rural southeast of Poland, though, I made the most of the trip there by first exploring Krakow, amazing city by the way. With buses and trains being the prominent mode of intercity transport, I lugged my suitcase the 40 minutes to the vast station to buy me a bus ticket to my next stop, ancestral homeland. Now, being a country girl growing up, I'm still learning how to be adept at public transport and maneuvering people and streets. I'm also very shy and not particularly great at social skills, but normally that doesn't stop me too much. The main bus/train station there is also a large fancy mall, and I was delighted to find a McCafe with free Wi-Fi. My phone service does not extend to Europe, so that's all the contact I had. I settled in and messaged a friend back home as to my whereabouts. The McCafe had the aura of a Starbucks, but the cheap prices of McDonald's, another plus for me. It was relatively busy and open to the public view where I was, sitting at a one-person-sized booth, right next to an outlet to charge up my phone before the long journey. However, it seemed my sanctity was not to last. After a short time, an older, gruff-looking gentleman with a thick, tattered winter coat sauntered in and immediately headed my way. He seemed to be in some kind of construction work, as his coat was very warmly padded and dirty, with the characteristic reflective yellow and orange colors. It did strike me a bit strange, though, since the station/mall was more travelers and shoppers than blue-collar workers. As for him heading my way, I figured with the laptop he held out ahead of him that he was just looking for a plug as I had been. Of course, mine was not the only outlet amidst the moderately spacious cafe, but he chose to sit directly next to me, almost touching shoulder to shoulder, and plugged into the second of the two plugs I was using. Sometimes, people don't have a sense of personal space, I guess, and this outlet was the closest to the entrance. I tried to shake it off. He proceeded to speak to me and gesture at his laptop. I got the sense that he needed some technical assistance from me, a youth, and figured that would explain why he'd sat down next to me. I helped him set up the Wi-Fi on his laptop in broken Polish, and he thanked me by kissing my hand emphatically and smiling like he'd just won the lottery. I noticed an icon at the bottom of his screen, showing he had a Ukrainian keyboard equipped, and it confirmed what I had thought earlier of his accent. He kept looking my way even after he no longer needed assistance, and I pretended to be busy on my phone, even though my friend on the other end wasn't necessarily responding so quickly. I just didn't really want him to talk to me. He kept his laptop turned slightly my way intentionally, as if he wanted me to see what he was doing. He opened up Facebook and started a FaceTime call with a woman around his age, perhaps a bit younger. He pointed the camera towards me to show her, and said something I couldn't quite understand well enough. I assumed he was telling her how I'd helped him out, but their conversation seemed strained, and she made a forced smile at me briefly, before they began talking loudly at each other once again. I tried to mind my own business, but it was awkward being in the view of his FaceTime call, and it being so loud that others in the cafe looked over to him. The call ended soon thereafter, and I thought he would leave. Instead, he closed his laptop and proceeded to question me. I tried my best to answer in broken Polish mixed with English, and he seemed to understand well enough. He was amicable, although dramatic. Every time I finally understood something he said and answered him satisfactorily, he would laugh and kiss my hand and not let go. Now, before venturing into Poland, my cousin had warned me that the rural, old-fashioned men may kiss a lady's hand in greeting. With this in the back of my mind, I wasn't sure if he was in the realm of cultural normality for the region or if this was being too much. Being the socially awkward person that I am, I decided to just let it go, especially considering I'd been traveling alone for 2 weeks at that point. I supposed some human-to-human interaction would not be totally unwelcome. However, his questions, despite the friendly smile he posed them with, began to get increasingly invasive. Since he seemed once again to be one for not respecting space, I chalked it up to him being too friendly but innocent enough. He asked why I'm here, where I'm from and going to, what's my phone number so if I need something later in my travels he can return the favor. That one set me off. Even if he's ignorant to social norms and space, that one was too odd for me, even for an old-fashioned man. I didn't mind obliging him though, because my number would be useless in Europe anyways. I gave him an alias as well instead of my real name. During this conversation he kept saying I needn't leave from my bus yet. It later morphed into I needn't go to the bus at all. I could stay a while with his family. He insisted he would like to repay me for my help. I kept declining and said my family would be waiting for me. A lie, by the way. We'd never met, and they didn't even know of my existence yet. But he said for me to just tell them I'd come later, to stay with him and his family instead. He also insisted on buying me a coffee even though I hadn't even finished the one I'd bought myself, and caused a fuss when I kept saying no. Mind you, this whole time, he's still leaning towards me and holding my hand quite tightly. It was getting sweaty even. Because of it, it was hard for me to try and collect my things and leave, or even shoot a message asking my friend what to do. He called to the cashier at the counter about 10 feet away, and asked for him to bring me a coffee. The cashier replied to just walk up to the register and place his order, but the man refused twice. His friendly demeanor when speaking to me was gone, as he nearly yelled at the cashier to meet his demands, and threw the cash onto the table for him. The man turned back to me and was smiley again, and insisted I stay to drink with him and chat. He knew my bus was leaving, and where to. He knew because he'd looked over my shoulder at my ticket when it was resting on the table next to my phone. He was blatantly stalling me, and still insisting on me going with him. I finally got upset, not wanting to miss the bus and waste my money on that ticket. Plus, I had a ride waiting for me expecting me to arrive at a particular time. The people-pleaser in me was torn, but ultimately the hostess who would be awaiting me had won out over the man glued to my side. Somehow he finally let up, and nodded sadly when I said I must leave now. I gulped the burning hot coffee he bought just for show, to not look ungrateful or wasteful, and thanked him for buying it for me. He refused my thanks profusely, and insisted he owed it to me, still holding the back of my hand. He kissed my hand again and again, holding it like the lowly servant does in the cartoons to the lovely princess they're indebted to. I put up with it once more with the hope that it would be over soon. He pulled me closer as he did this, and reached around my shoulders like he wanted to hug me goodbye, and I put up with this too. Despite all his rude insistence, I still felt like he was an overly friendly, perhaps lonely man, and felt bad just walking away. He suddenly jerked my arm closer to him, slid me along the booth, and hugged me tightly. He then kissed my cheek. But when I thought he was going to let go, he grabbed my face forcefully with both hands and turned it towards his. He kissed me on the lips twice, deliriously, as if he were a Casanova movie star and I his femme fatale. It was disgusting, and he did it in full view of the other customers sitting across the way. They'd thrown awkward glances our way throughout the entire encounter, since we were the only ones talking and laughing in the cafe. They especially had noticed his loud demands to the cashier. I was too much in shock to notice if they'd seen the last part, but I didn't really care. I had 5 minutes to reach the bus amid a huge bustling station I'd never been to before. As soon as the stupid old man let go, I made an obligatory forced half-smile and a goodbye, and escaped on shaky legs into the crowded walkway. I knew I'd missed the bus, but but I had to leave the cafe anyway to escape that situation. The next one wasn't for 6 more hours. The man was probably still there, just inside the mall area, and I didn't want him to spot me again. I waited at a different fast food place, closest to the buses and inside of a police officer standing at the mall entrance, just in case the man saw me again. Being in a different time zone from my family and friends, I felt I had no one to comfort me, and made the mistake of frantically posting to Reddit in another sub. I got yelled at by the mall security guy for resting my shaking feet on the bar of the chair beside me, and finally just broke into tears. I only told my night owl friend from earlier about this when she came on later, and as I didn't want to worry my parents or boyfriend about me traveling alone, to this day they don't know what happened. Who knows what he was really up to? Or maybe he really did want me to meet his family. I'll never know. I felt so gross and disgusting physically that I covered my mouth and tongue with hand sanitizer I had with me. Mentally and emotionally I was exhausted and distraught, of course, because I felt stupid for letting things get that far. In 2012, I, 20 and female, went with my boyfriend to a diner on a Wednesday night. This place advertised free pie Wednesday when you spend X amount of dollars. The restaurant was right by his apartment as well, literally less than a 5-minute drive. It was a rainy night that night, and the restaurant was in a southern college town, but not close enough to campus to get much of a late-night crowd. Definitely not in the rain. Both of us enjoy quiet places, so we spontaneously decided to give it a try. This place was a normal, bland-looking chain restaurant shaped like a U. From one end of the restaurant, it would be impossible to see what was going on the other end. It's around 9 p.m. Not all restaurants are going to be open past then, but diners like this often are. The Waffle House and Denny's near campus is usually pretty hoppin' late into the night. This place is empty except one bubbly female staff member. I've been in food service before, so I asked the waitress what time they close. I hate when people come in right at closing time. Thankfully, she says they're open to midnight. Lucky us. Our waitress was a skinny, petite, maybe 30-year-old woman who sat us away from the front. She introduced herself as Sally, and right away I got the distinct feeling she was lying about her name. It was the way she took a moment to smile after she said it. Reminded me of the way my sister, who's a certified pathological liar, would slip in a little lie here and there. I could tell something was a little off, but nothing alarming just yet. I mean, my sister is completely harmless. I noticed Sally isn't wearing a name tag, though. Just jeans and a polo shirt. She gives us menus and again says her name is Sally. And once again, I'm picking up on these subtle body language cues I learned from living with a habitual liar. At this point, I'm thinking Sally is full of crap, and it stands out in my memory as the first impression. My second impression was, damn, this lady talks a lot. I haven't seen you here before. Are you new? Here for college? I had great roommates in college. Do you have any roommates? Aren't Thursdays the worst? I mean, there's nothing to do. Do you have any plans for later? It was kind of annoying, but she seemed nice if a bit fake, and we figured she was just bored out of her mind, or making an effort to get tips for being friendly. It became clear soon that we were the only guests, and there weren't even any other food servers for her to talk to. As far as I could see, it was just the 3 of us. We didn't want to be rude, so we just answered her obnoxious questions, thinking it was an attempt at weird small talk. After our main dinner, she takes our order for pie, and then starts chatting up about the weather. It's so dangerous to drive in the rain. Blah blah blah, it should blow over soon. I'd wait here if I were you. I started to get a bit creeped out. Why was she being so clingy? It was not necessarily a feeling of being in danger. More like, why are you so obsessed with me? I got creeped out, but then felt a bit bad for it. Who do I think I am, Regina George, hating on some nerd? The lady probably just really needs to bring home some tip money or something. She brings out 2 slices of pie and gives us some peace. The pie was gross. I had mixed berry and it tasted super fake sweet, very artificial like a child's lip gloss flavoring. I don't know why I ate more than one bite, other than that I was broke and never wasted food. After a few cringy bites, I looked to the back of the diner, and the waitress is standing in the back door, staring at us with some man. Heavy set, pale skin, sweat-stained white shirt, huge barrel of a man, with a facial expression like he was watching cockroaches he was about to step on. They were both suddenly just staring silently. My blood went cold. All the hairs on my neck went up. They caught me looking at them and went back into the kitchen extremely quickly. Finally, alarm bells in my brain are ringing like a tornado siren. I whispered, "We need to leave now. Just sneak out and fucking go." My boyfriend could see I was freaked out, threw down cash with a big tip, grabbed our jackets, left our gross half-eaten pie, and we bolted. We drive home and start laughing at our overreaction. The man was probably just some cranky cook who wanted us to go home so we could chill, and that waitress was just fishing for tips. Boy, did she luck out. She got well over a 50% tip because I was too chicken to wait for change. I'm feeling silly and really rude for judging a book by its cover and running out on a nice lady like that. But then the night went from kind of creepy to actual terror. I remember laughing in the car, and then I was waking up shivering and shaking in our dark apartment. My boyfriend was laying on top of the bed fully dressed with his shoes on. I had been slumped over, half on the bed, half on the floor, also in my rain-soaked jeans and boots. It was midnight. I couldn't even remember parking, unlocking the door, walking inside, anything from the last 2 hours. I wake my boyfriend up in a panic. He remembers coming back, but not too clearly. He remembers going to the bathroom and suddenly becoming very disoriented, like the room was spinning, but a strange feeling of calm. Then nothing. We both blacked out, something neither of us experienced ever before or after. We didn't have a drop of alcohol, or intentionally do any drugs. Holy balls, we're lucky we lived so close, literally only a 3-minute drive away. If we'd passed out like that on the road, who knows what would have happened. If we'd stayed at the restaurant for even 3 more minutes. This was almost 10 years ago. I remember calling the non-emergency police line about it in the morning after I calmed down a little. The person I talked to on the phone sounded like they didn't believe me and questioned if I was partying. I wasn't. Generally had the tone I was wasting their time. It was a frustrating phone call, where the police person asked, "Well, what do you want me to do?" I don't remember my response. It was awful. Probably worse than the feeling of violation from that night was the attitude of annoyance and dismissal from the authorities. Later, I looked up the restaurant online, and I saw that the hours were 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Just a little extra spice to the what the fuck soup, and further confirmation that something definitely wasn't right from the get-go. What sober person passes out like that, slumped over the edge of the bed in rain-soaked clothes? 2 sober people with no history of fainting, just collapsing for no reason? I think we've all been told never to leave your drink alone if you go to a bar or party, but it never occurred to me that some danger could come from a chatty waitress in a chain restaurant. This happened during high school. I'm 23 and male now. I admit I'm one of the troubled kids. Spent most of my days in detention rooms. Counselors would also talk me out of it, and even got sent to local church just because they thought prayer-overs would help me be a good person. This problem of mine went on until second year high school, but I'm thankful of this one teacher, my advisor during freshman year, because she believes in me, taught me stuff, and would always advise me to do better. And that's why we would always hang out with my 2 guy friends. We were genuinely friends. When there's a house event, she would invite us and have drinks. During my sophomore year, I had a girlfriend, and that's why I would barely see that teacher. When I bumped into her on campus, she would call me and tell me that we should go home together. My girlfriend at the time didn't mind. According to her, that teacher was just worried and nice. Everything went fine, or so I thought. Come junior year, one thing left my girlfriend and I dumbfounded. One day, when I hung out with her again, We were inside the classroom talking about random things when she suddenly touched my thighs and proceeded to sit on my lap. I didn't move because I couldn't. I was so surprised that I just froze. One of my friends told me that he thought the teacher was interested in me, while the other casually said, "Nah, I know you like it. A lot of guys fantasize about her and she sat on your lap. Consider yourself lucky." I didn't know what to believe in. In my mind, I was still a damn kid. How come this teacher would do something like this? Senior year, I let what she did slide. I'm in a happy relationship and things were going quite well. She had organized a small event in her house with my freshman classmates. We all ate together and had drinks. As time passed by, other classmates went to their homes. I ended up not going home because my two close friends told me to stay for the night. We had a few more drinks. The last thing I remember, I went to one of the rooms and fell asleep. In the morning, she woke us up to have breakfast. We went home after that. Monday came by and the counselor called us, started to say a bunch of shit that I couldn't understand. He told me that I had forced my teacher to have sex with me and decided to hurt her while I was tipsy. I, for the life of me, could not understand what was going on. I pleaded and pleaded, but they refused to listen. I never talked to that teacher during the whole month of going to counseling. They never let me talk to her about the things she accused me of. The scandal traveled fast as the speed of light. I began to be called names. Horny cunt. Asshole. Worst of all, future rapist. I didn't mind at first, but it was beginning to get hard to go to school during those times. I thought that I had to pull myself together so that I could leave that shithole behind. After 4 years, the one friend who was there the same night she claimed I sexually assaulted her told me what he'd seen. According to him, when we were drinking, the teacher would give me loads of shots, as if she was trying to get me drunk, touch my thighs, and even tried to kiss me, but I still refused, because she's a goddamn teacher and way older than me. When I was just about passed out in one of the rooms, she assisted me back to her room, and he didn't know what happened after the door closed. After hearing this, I was fuming mad. I wanted to get back to that fucking school and just tell them they'd failed to take care of one goddamn kid just because he had a troubled history as a student. My friend added that they couldn't testify when talks were going on, mainly because the teacher is a daughter of one of the founding faculty of my school. I now realize why they didn't expel me or punish me with a heavier punishment. They were afraid of what other people would say. They were ashamed they still kept that teacher in their hell of a school. I'm sorry for grammatical errors and messy thoughts in my mind. It's still clouded even now. I don't think I'll ever get over this shit. They painted me as the bad guy, and that shit cost me my future and every good opportunity after high school. So to that crazy science teacher, let's not meet. What is up, guys? Blue Spooky here as always. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. I know I've been using the same outro for a long time, so I figured it's time to change it up since school is finally over, and I have a bit of a break from work before I go back in about a week. If you guys liked the video, please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. If you do subscribe, make sure to hit the bell so you can be notified of all the new videos I post. If you guys have any comments about the video or any feedback you'd like to give me, please be sure to leave them in the comments section of the video below. If you guys want to get in contact with me, all of my social media, including my Facebook, Twitter, Gmail, and Twitch accounts, are in the description of the video below. Be sure to send me a message on any of those. I'll try to respond to you as soon as possible, although I respond more quickly to emails and Twitter, not as much to Facebook, since I'm not on there as often. If you guys have any stories you'd like to send in, or any stories that you'd like me to read, please be sure to send me a message on any of those, and I'll try to read them as soon as possible. If you do decide to send in a story, please be sure to make sure that you're using proper grammar and add as much description as possible, because if the stories are too short, I won't be able to make a video out of them. Also be sure to include in the tagline what type of story it is, if it has one, and how you'd like to be credited in the description of the video the story appears in. If you guys are curious about the music used in this video, all of that can be found in the description below, as well as links to the artists. It's all listed in the order which it appears as well. If you guys like the art used in my videos, I have a link to my artist, Alan, in the description below. He's a good friend of mine, and I believe he takes commissions as well. So if you like his art, be sure to check out his stuff, and maybe you can get something good from him. Who knows? Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.